Hello, happy Sunday to everyone. Hi, we're live here from Toronto. Good to see you all. Please let me know if you're hearing my voice. I hope you're all good and have a lovely weekend wherever in the world you are. Hi, everyone. Just wave me if you can hear me. Hi. Hi, everyone. So, we have this very interesting talk, as usual, about women's health, women's well being. So, I invited today Dr. Samina Shaheem to talk with us about women's health, women's well being. She's amazing and she's a keynote speaker, a professor, leadership professor, and also psychologist. She's the best person. So, as usual, if you have questions, do not hesitate to either write it in the comment or the question bubble. So, we try to answer as many as questions you have today. So, I'm going to invite Dr. Samina. So, let me know what are you doing today. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Toronto. Hope you've been out for your walk today. Okay, as usual, some problems, but I'm going to find Dr. Shaheem. Hi, Christina. Hi, Pam. Good to see you all. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hi, good to see you.
Good to see you. Should I call you Dr. Amin?
Dr.
Dr.
Bahar,
Bahar? Bahar? Yes. Lovely.
yourself, how do you like to be called?
Samina is fine. Samina is fine. I'm known as Dr. Shaheem, but please be comfortable and call me Samina.
Lovely to have you here. It's great. So if you don't mind to introduce yourself for everyone
Yeah.
here, that would be
Yep.
amazing.
Sure, sure. Can you tell me if the connection is okay? Bahar,
Yes,
John, everything okay with the connection? Okay.
so far is
All
great.
right. Okay, wonderful. So, my name is Dr. Samina Shaheem, and I have been a professor of psychology and leadership for close to about 25 years. Taught at different university levels, undergraduate, graduate, PhD supervision, as well, took part in that for most of my career. And I had one leg in the university and the other one in consulting.
Mhm.
And so, with that, I mean, I design and deliver learning and development solutions for private and public organizations. So, if a company, for example, needs to do executive education or learning for their team, for emotional intelligence, for growth mindset, communication skills, whatever it may be. There are times when I worked independently as a consultant, and then there are other times in which I led a team of consultants or was head of leadership and talent for a particular company. Um, I was dean and executive director of a business school for close to 6 years. And
Hmm.
so, can you, as you can imagine, thousands of students and staff and professors, which was a very fulfilling job through the pandemic. But I resigned, Bahorjan, about 2 years ago, I believe a little bit over 2 years ago. And I joined a year ago, just over a year ago, a company called Shape Talent. And they're a gender equity firm. And so we design and deliver programs for companies to make sure that women are getting hired and promoted and that they develop the skills that they need for us to achieve gender equality and equity.
Bravo. Beautiful.
Thank you.
So where are you based? Where are you located?
I'm based in London,
Mhm.
and the UK. I grew up in Canada, in Vancouver. British Columbia was my first, my second actually. First of all, we were in Orange County, California, and then we went to Vancouver, British Columbia, lived there 4 or 5 years, then went back to OC. And then carried on there, and I went to UCI for a while, and then I transferred to London around, it was the mid 90s. And I finished my education in the UK. And I stayed here ever since. So when people hear my accent, they think I'm North American. And then, but then, I'm, when I'm there, they say, "Oh, where's your accent from?" And it's kind of become mixed now because of my diverse
Mhm.
working experiences.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, how about yourself, Bauerjohn? Also, I'd love to hear about your background too. There might be some of my followers that maybe don't know you, or it would be great to know what you do.
I'm a family doctor,
Yeah.
and I did my training in the UK, Southampton.
Mm,
Thereafter, I worked for years in the UK, and we moved here to Canada, Toronto, in 2013.
mm,
So
wonderful.
since we've been here, and I still do practice family medicine, but for last 6 years, I'm doing more integrative, holistic. I did my fellowship in functional medicine. So I
Mhm.
do see private patients in my clinic, more for, again, both men and women, but more focused on women's health.
Okay. Women's, men and women, but mostly on
Women
women's health.
health during the transition, perimenopause, age, menopause, all the hormone changes,
Mm,
and all the needs. So
great.
it's very interesting. It's amazing, and it's just empowering women with all the information about these changes, how to deal with the changes. And it's, again, mental health is so much involved during this period. So that's why I love to talk to you
Yeah,
about
sure.
women's health and how to empower women, and awareness about all these changes. I think we discussed to talk about today more authenticity
Mhm.
and issues, the society, the pressure, demand on women, how to excel and be the best. So too much pressure and stress to be fit with those prescribed roles in the society, professionally and personally, I think. And then the study shows, I think, comparing men and women, women more internalize that stress, which can affect their well-being, their mental health, and physical health.
Mm,
So I'd like you
yeah,
to talk more about this. First of all, what is authenticity, and how to how to achieve it, how to
right.
be true self.
Yeah, I think that, it's been a couple of, I think a decade or so that authenticity has been, yeah, an important word, a concept that we have embraced and we've been trying to explore and to better understand. And why authenticity is specifically most important. It's important for men and women, but mostly for women, uh, because what authenticity means is that it's when someone is genuine and someone is sincere in who they are. And so that means they have a deep and nuanced understanding of themselves. They understand what their strengths are, what their developmental areas are. They understand what their values are. These people, Bahar, who are authentic, they don't try and compare themselves or their lives to other people, or they don't try to be who they're not, right? And so they understand who they are, and they live by that understanding. And so some people misunderstand authenticity, and they think, they can be very direct or rude or straightforward and say, hey, why are you getting offended? I'm just trying to be authentic. That's not authenticity. Authenticity doesn't mean we're rude to anybody. Authenticity also doesn't mean that you're stuck. We call this identity foreclosure. People can't use authenticity as an excuse not to develop themselves. The journey towards authenticity is endless, which means at every juncture of your life, there'll be experiences and there'll be situations which draw from your existing skills, but also require for you to upskill and to increase your knowledge and understanding, or add on new traits or skills. And there's a fantastic TEDx video by a professor, London Business School professor, Hermina Ibarra. And she says, authenticity is super important because what got you here is not going to get you here. That means that while you may have been authentic and it got you to achieve certain goals to here, that means it doesn't end. We don't just stop there and say, it's finished. But all this on one side, and let me share with you one sentence on the other side that will really help crystallize what authenticity is. And that's when people who are authentic ask themselves this question: who am I truly on the inside when I'm not performing for people on the outside? So who am I truly on the inside when I'm not performing for people on the outside? Okay. Now, do you see why it's so important for women to understand and embrace this concept of authenticity? Because while both genders or all genders are told by society who you should be, what you should wear, how you should speak, what your voice should be like, that's not acceptable. Women are told far more often about, how short should your top be, your skirt, your hair, why is it down, why is it up, curly is not professional, straight is more professional. We're fed so many bits of information. And can you imagine, everyone has different opinions and ideas about what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. So we get pushed and pulled in all these different directions, trying to satisfy a wide range of expectations. But what happens is that the goalpost keeps moving. And then the gap between who we really are and who we are acting to be causes this emptiness of anxiety, of worry, of depression, of who am I? What is the purpose of all this? What am I doing here? And it tends to cause lots of confusion about oneself, about others, and about our purpose in life. So I think that's what authenticity is, what it isn't, and why it's so important for us, especially as women, to think about it in that way. What are you, as you're listening, what's coming up for you?
I can see it even as young as my 12-year-old twin girls. I can see it in them. I
Mm,
think it's probably society, school,
mm,
parents, family,
mm.
friends. I think we all putting so much burden and pressure on these kids. So it probably starts as early as childhood, very young.
Yeah, yeah.
Expectations. Exactly.
Expectations, right? And of course, we need to help shape the future generation, right? To a certain extent. But oftentimes, we don't really focus on understanding who our children are instead of trying to shape them. And so what's important is to give them the tools for them to be able to better design and to be able to discover who they truly are. For example, we should sit with our kids, and ask them questions about what was the best thing about your day? What did you find fulfilling about today? What hurt you today? What upset you? And to gather information about what's important to them. If we just ask a 14 or 15-year-old, hey, what's important to you? They may not be equipped with the right words or sentences to be able to share that. But very early on, I think in schools, it's important for us to embrace concepts of emotional intelligence. So self-awareness, social awareness, relationship management, and social management of who am I and what is my setting? What is appropriate? What is inappropriate in the functioning of this setting? And to dive deeper into our self-awareness is the first step towards authenticity. Now, you might be thinking, well, if people are in their 30s, 40s, they probably have a good level of self-awareness. But it doesn't work that way. Until we switch it on and do the work and dive in and reflect on our experiences, what drains us, what energizes us, what makes us feel good about different situations, what is our purpose and passion and what we want to do in life. You need time to actually sit down with and dig deeper to be able to discover these things, right? So when you think about self-awareness, I want you to think about 4 different boxes or quadrants, okay? There's a section or a quadrant that is known to you and it's known to others, okay? Maybe that's your name, your nationality, where you're from, what you do. It's pretty open. If you look at the next quadrant, there are some things that are known to you, but not known to others. Okay, this is typical of immigrants, for example, right? Immigrants who come to a host country, they may not share their favorite music in their language or their food, or there are things about me, about my childhood, about my language that I know, but you don't know. But in fact, if I share some of those things with you, if I'm authentic and I bring those to the table and I share some of those things with you, I get to learn more about myself and you through this process, right? Now think about the third quadrant. There are things that are known to you, but perhaps not to me. So this is when we're in situations where we get feedback from our family and friends or from our employers. Someone might say, Bahar, you need to be better at listening, for example. And you're shocked and you think to yourself, wow, I thought I was a great listener. Where is this coming from? How come I'm being given this data? Or our relationships, our partners, our family say something to us about us that we're shocked and offended, and we get upset about that, right? And the last quadrant is things that others don't know about me and that I don't know about myself either, and I haven't discovered them yet. And how do we discover these things is by trying new experiences. So when you're authentic and you want to dig deep into understanding who you are, what you're capable of, what your potential is, you often engage in trying and embarking on new adventures and activities. So you might pick up painting and suddenly discover, wow, I didn't know how much I love this. And I didn't know that, in fact, I've got some skills, base skills that I would like to develop. So you see, understanding who you are is the basis or the foundation of authenticity. But it's not that easy. No, it's tough and it's endless.
I think it is very much linked or interconnected with self-love. That's my feeling. Passion about yourself, and
Mm.
then to know yourself better and be more confident about yourself.
Yeah.
That I mean, up to certain age, for example, myself, I was always worried about people judging about
Mm.
my body, how I look. But at some point, maybe I reached to that understanding about myself
Mm.
and love myself that
Mm.
didn't really, that I didn't fear of that judgment.
Yes,
So
yes.
that I think is so important. But again, as a psychologist, I think you know the best how to get to that point of awareness, of being able to know your true self and be authentic. So how do you normally help people or guide people in the journey? Because as you
Yeah,
said, it's
well,
not easy to.
no, no, it's not easy. And it comes with love, as you mentioned, but more important than love is acceptance.
Mhm,
The fact that this is who I am right now,
mhm,
and I accept it. I don't want to be any other version, any other anything. Now, I accept that as baseline, and it's only when you accept that, then can you say, okay, I accept this, and now I want to learn a new language, or now I want to, become more fit, not for anybody else, but for the fact that I do accept myself, and I realize that perhaps adding to my skills, knowledge, and abilities, or improving my health, my physique in whatever shape or form, if it's good for me and if it has benefits, then after that acceptance, I can devise a plan to be able to continue on that path, right? So being authentic doesn't mean you're stuck.
mhm,
It doesn't mean, this is it and you give up and you don't grow. In fact, not at all. It really is about understanding what you're capable of and working towards that capability. Okay. So before we look at, how do we get there? Um, I want you to also consider something else, and that is barriers to
mhm,
authenticity. Okay. So what happens that more people are not authentic, or what are some potential barriers? Well, to start with, we've talked a lot about this, is people who don't have self-awareness, it's difficult for them to be
mhm,
authentic, right? So lack of self-awareness. The second barrier to authenticity is limiting beliefs. If I wear my hair like this, I'm going to get judged. If I wear this makeup, I'm going to be put in this category. I'm too old for this. I'm too young for this. This is not appropriate for me. I can't do it. It's all these limiting beliefs
mhm,
that we might carry around about what is right and what is wrong in these universal truths that we think that we should adhere to, which in fact are just these limiting beliefs that hold us back.
mhm,
Now, let me give you an example. I was working with a woman recently, very powerful and successful, ambitious corporate executive. And she is head of finance for a multinational company. She's head of finance, and when she delivers information, Baharjan, she delivers it cold, black and white, as it is. Okay? This is numbers don't lie. Data doesn't lie. And
mhm,
I want to deliver the hard, cold facts. And she got some feedback from her boss, from her manager, from her team that, these meetings are really boring and they're dry. And like, maybe when you give presentations, try and make them a little bit more spicy. Have a story in there, some kind of narrative around what you're saying and what you're presenting. Now she's got two options here. She can say, listen, this is not me. I'm authentic. I want to be who I am. I'm a numbers person. I'm a finance person. Don't try to put me into something I'm not. Or she can say, well, in fact, my authenticity is more wrapped around the exemplary work that I do and the ambitions that I have. So if I need to learn to tell a better story with these numbers, why wouldn't I do it? Okay, bring it on.
mhm.
I'll have a growth mindset, and sure, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
So the worst sentence across different languages is, hey, this is me. Take it or leave it. This is who I am. There's no such thing.
Mm-hmm.
We are human becomings. We're not human beings.
Mm-hmm.
We're constantly becoming what we are capable of becoming, right? So limiting beliefs, societal expectations, fear of judgment, you mentioned. Another one that's really important is need for approval. You see, our need for approval is very much intertwined with being a human being.
Mm-hmm.
As a part of the human species, as Aristotle said many moons ago, we are social creatures, and anyone who claims otherwise is either a beast or a deity. And so we need to feel a sense of belonging. Now, can you imagine how this point about belonging is connected to authenticity or lack of? What's coming up for you as you're listening to this? How do you think these two are related, or
Belong,
in your understanding?
belonging and authenticity.
Yeah.
They're again quite a bit linked.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're linked in the way that I want to belong.
Yeah.
It's important for me to belong. So therefore, I will do what I think you want me to do
Mm-hmm.
to belong. Okay? Whereas in fact, that's not sustainable and it's not genuine. I should be who I am. And if I fit in, fantastic. And if you don't belong, don't be long. Don't stay too long, because then it wears away at your authenticity and it wears away at your sense of happiness. That could be a relationship. It could be a job. It could be a group of friends. It could be exercising of some sort. If it doesn't align with my values and ideas, then I should not be, intoxicated by the need for approval, to be a version of myself which is not authentic to who I am, right? So I'll give you a personal example, Bahar. A lot of psychologists on social media, they put music and jump around and point to boxes and, things like that, or they put makeup as they're talking and all these little social media tips and tricks of attracting people. And I had, someone send me a message saying, Dr. Shaheem, you should do more of like these things. And I said, thank you very much. I really appreciate the feedback, but I have to curate my social media based on who I am and my authentic values, rather than just, following and copying, or just, trying to imitate something others are doing, because it will look really unnatural and uncomfortable. It'll be awkward, not only for me but for everyone,
Yes, that's true.
right?
Awkward, yes.
Yeah, and so for me, my value of social media is not about followers. It's about, even if I can help one person, even if one person listening here is able to walk away and say, "Oh my goodness, I didn't think about it that way." That for me is mission accomplished, right? So I really have to stay true to what works for me, rather than trying to emulate, others. What else are barriers to authenticity? We have fear of rejection. We have perfectionism. A lot of people are not authentic, or they don't progress because they want everything to be perfect, and they stick in their comfort zones. They stick in the areas of what is familiar to them, and they avoid going out of that. People who are afraid of change, and old habits, Bahar, right? Old habits tend to keep us in familiar spaces. So I want you to do something for me right now, just something real quick. Put your arms out, put your, and just cross your arms as you normally would. Okay? Now put your arms out again, and now cross your arms the other way. So this hand will go here, and this hand, let's say, will go here. Okay, how does that feel?
It feels awkward.
Feels awkward, right? And it feels like, wait, how do I, what's that doesn't feel, nice. It doesn't feel normal. But now put your hands out again and just cross your arms. What happened?
Yeah, it feels right. It feels okay.
Yeah,
Good.
because what happened was you slipped right back
Yeah.
to the original,
Hmm.
what was comfortable and what was familiar,
Hmm.
right?
To your
So
comfort
when
zone.
correct. You go right back to what you know and what is familiar. So authenticity invites you to say, "Hey, I know this is comfortable and familiar, but guess what? You're capable of far more than you're doing just in this comfort and familiar zone." So don't panic.
Hmm.
You are capable of going into the stretch zone and, trying that new sport you wanted to try or that new job that you wanted to perhaps apply for, or this new career choice that you want to take. What do I need to get that? What am I good at right now? What's missing? What do I need to improve? And how do I go for
Hmm.
it? It's scary, of course, but it's also scary staying in the same place for too long.
Hmm.
That's equally
So
something that we don't want to happen.
I hear a lot of notes about flexibility, harmony, balance. So all those come to my mind as you're talking. So I think these are so important.
Yes, yes, they are important. And tell me in what way? What else is it saying to you? Important in what way?
It's important to keep that balance, as you mentioned, for example, about loving yourself, uh, that belonging, for example, you mentioned. So that's being able to at some point say, no, this is me. But the balance is there, that again you mentioned before, that you were saying you not always say, okay, this is rigid and it's me, so I do it this way, this is my way. So that comes the balance, then how to deal with it,
Yeah.
be yourself, but then be able to be flexible as well. So that comes to my mind as you're talking a lot, that I can
Yes.
between your words.
Yes.
Um,
Is there a time, Bauer, for you that you felt, that you didn't feel as authentic as you wanted to be or that you felt to be, or did you ever struggle with this yourself?
oh yes, many many times.
Where you
I,
were questioning, should I be, the version that I want to be, or should I be what I think this situation requires?
well, all of these. I think maybe part of it, age is too important as well, at
Mm,
least for me, that maturity, getting to certain point in your life that you say, okay, it's enough.
mm,
I'm done with being other people's pleaser and make the others happy. So let's leave for me.
mm,
My my beliefs are more important.
mm,
Course,
mm,
I respect others too, but so that is that balance, that is that harmony that comes into your
mm.
place, in
Yeah.
place, that I
It-
think.
right, right. Because so what you're saying is that while, you know, it's important to think about oneself and who we are and who we want to be in this journey, that we also have to consider the feelings, the objectives, the goals, the requests of others in our life, right? So it can't just be a selfish kind of modality or driving force, right?
Yes, so that to keep that balance, because then I've seen in my practice patients who come in with so much distress and so mental health issues or chronic disease,
Mm,
cancer, and stress, uh, autoimmune disease. So many different issues because of stress of being someone else, someone who they are not. So I've seen that, and it really can affect and impact people's lives to try and role play someone who they're not.
Yeah. And it's very draining, isn't it?
It
It's
is.
very draining and damaging, and it's a lot to carry on one's shoulders. It really is a lot to carry. One of the main questions people say is, how can I deepen my self-awareness? How do I get to know more about who I am so that I could be more that? Um, and it really starts with values. So the first step that people have to take is to ask themselves, let's say, 5 questions to identify what their values are. And I think those people who are here or listening, they may benefit from asking. This is from Suzanne David. Suzanne David has done some work around values and emotional agility and how to be more aware of who you are. And she says these 5 questions will help deepen that understanding. So she asks things like, deep down, what matters to me?
Mm-hmm.
Deep down, what matters to me? And Baha, right now, I mean, the world is in so much turmoil. We all woke up to the horrendous news of, this the attempted assassination on President Trump, and and not to mention so many other tragedies and atrocities that are happening around the world. Um, and I think more than ever, it's important for us to step back and say, it's a choice. I really can design who I want to be. I don't have to get sucked into this social media circus,
Mm-hmm.
into the social media frenzy. Everybody telling me what I should think, everybody telling me what my opinions about different subjects should be. I mean, for God's sake, Bauer, we have people bullying us, sending us messages saying, why don't you talk about this subject? You need to talk about that subject.
Mm-hmm.
In no time in history ever before has there been so much bullying
Mm-hmm.
and insistence of to fall in either one camp or the other. Now, this is across cultures. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking only about America and liberals and Democrats and conservatives. I'm talking about so many issues around the world that require a complex, nuanced thinking, but it's become polarized into black and white. So more than ever, people need to step back and say, wait a minute. Why should I force myself to fit into a bucket or a category that makes you feel comfortable? Why can't I look a little bit deeper? So first question, deep down, what matters to me? If it's humanity, if it's compassion, if it's peace, then I have to feel bad for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say that I value compassion, humanity, and peace and only be, upset at one side.
Yeah.
There's got to be a more balanced
Mm-hmm.
approach to things. The second question, which relationships do I want to build on? So which relationships in my life do I value and I want to put more focus and energy towards? Okay. The third question, what do I want my life to be about? So if you imagine 20, 30 years from now, if someone picked up a book about Bahar Amin, what would that book be about?
Mm-hmm.
You know, what kind of authentic themes would we see coming through? And what are you doing today to be able to achieve and align with that vision? Are you doing things that in 20, 30 years' time, when the book is released, that these will happen and they'll come into fruition? Or am I living a life simply because somebody told me I should be a dentist, and then somebody else said you have to pay the mortgage, and then every Sunday night I feel miserable. I start getting anxiety from 10 o'clock in the morning because it's Sunday and I have to go to my miserable job tomorrow on Monday, and I hate what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
So apparently 82% of people, there was a Pew research, 82% of people said they had no kind of attachment or feeling or like for the work that they do,
That's
for their job.
that is scary.
It
That's
And how sad is that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you love your job,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what you do.
Yes, of course. I look forward to going to my work every day. So that everyone has to be like that, ideally, in an ideal world.
Ideally, yes, exactly. And you know, some people may find out what their ideal job or their a job that they're passionate about. Maybe they'll find out about it a little bit
Of
later.
course.
And that's okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. So the third question, yeah, what do I want my life to be about? The fourth question, during which activities do I feel most alive?
Mm-hmm.
Is it hiking? Is it while I'm at work? Is it when I'm with my family? Is it when I'm raising my child? Is it when I'm learning? When
Mm-hmm.
do I feel most alive? And then you write down the answers to this. And finally, if all my stress was gone, what would my life look like? What new things would I pursue? If I didn't have any stress, how would I feel? What would my life look like? And if I didn't need to necessarily work the way I'm working right now, what would I do? What are some of the activities I would get more connected to? And life is so busy, and we're made up of, you know, so many different roles and responsibilities
Mm-hmm.
that we don't often think about these questions.
These are very deep questions, as you said, and we don't think about them. It's good that you brought them up so I can try today.
Yes, that would be wonderful. You want to answer them now, or you want to think about it and
I
answer
will
them
think
later?
about them and I will write my answers in caption later.
Oh, excellent.
Yes,
That would be nice. And then maybe we can ask other people as well to
yes.
um, share their responses for,
Mhm.
you know, the questions. I'll send you the questions.
Yes, that would be
That
helpful for everyone, I think. Because
yes, of
place to
course.
start. We have some place to start.
Yeah. And you know, Bahar, the most important thing I think about authenticity is a realization and an understanding that you are whole, you're resourceful, you're unique,
Mhm.
and you have all the answers within you. Nobody is more of an expert about who you are and what you're capable of than you. Even if you sit with a psychologist for the next 20 years, they are still dependent on what you say to them. They don't have access to, you know, what's going on with internally, let's say, with you and so on. So you are whole, you're unique, and you're resourceful. We have just become so accustomed to listening to outside voices,
Mhm.
to listening to other people's promises of perfection, of us transforming into the best versions of who we can be. If you just buy this book, if you just take this course, you know,
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you know, but of course I think you do know. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, I have a program called Lead a Life by Design.
Mhm.
And the entire premise of leading a life by design is, in fact, this idea of instead of listening to the outside, let's try and silence those voices a little bit and listen more on the inside. Let's ask ourselves, how did that comment feel? Why do I feel heartbroken right now? Which one of
Mhm.
my values has been hurt? Or which one of my values has been triggered that I feel this way? And then when you're more in tuned with that voice, people can't gaslight you, right?
Mhm.
So let's say you tell somebody, you know, what you just said right now really hurt me. Oh no, you're too sensitive. You're, you know, don't make a big drama out of it. Don't make a big deal out of
Mhm.
it. It didn't mean that. But the more connected you are to that voice and to your authenticity, you realize that you don't like to be spoken in that way, and then you defend yourself
Mhm.
and you say, please don't try and change the subject or don't try and shift blame onto me. But I am giving you feedback that that was very hurtful, and I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't do it again. Authentic people defend themselves because they're very clear about what is appropriate, what is inappropriate, and how it works for them or how it may not work for them, different things. I have here, I just want to acknowledge this message. I think it's Mandana, I think. And she says, "Hi, Dr. Shem, I really want to connect with you to introduce my research and get your insight." Ah, okay. I wonder if this is on Iranian women. This is about Iranian American women in education and career experiences. Of course, please get in touch. I would love to know more about your research. I'm always excited about people doing research, especially about Iranian American or bicultural orientations, because
Someone
yeah,
mentioned earlier about that it's hard to be authentic, especially in our culture. So I wasn't sure which culture she was referring to, maybe Iranian culture. But again, that is one of the restrictions or limits that we have. Culture itself
yes,
limits
yeah,
to be authentic.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And you have to work within the guidelines of those cultural frameworks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because the last thing you want is to try to bring the cultural values of another culture and try and force it into our culture of origin or another culture. What do I mean by that? Let me give you an example. I think I was maybe 9 or 10 years old when I was at my friend's house. And her name was, I think her name was Heidi, if I'm not mistaken. And we were playing in her house and in her room. And Heidi told her mother, "Mom, we're going to go outside and play in the garden." She said, "No, no, no, not until you clean your room." Okay. And Heidi said, "I don't want to clean my room right now. It's my room and it's my life, and I'll clean it later."
Mm-hmm.
And her mother said, "Okay, well, you know, clean it when you get back." So I come from, a Persian background, right? This, it's my room, my life was very foreign to me. Like, what kind of magic is this? Does it actually work that we can say such a thing? So if I wanted to be authentic, and I thought to myself, I don't feel like cleaning my room right now. Let me try and use this.
Mm-hmm.
So next day at home, I leave my room and my mother says, "What do you think? Where do you think you're going? Pick up your room before you go anywhere." "No, Mom, it's my life and it's my room." Boy, you should have seen her face, the look of shock. And I have a very cool, educated mom. She's not, but in our culture, that kind of discourse was unheard of. What do you mean? There's no such thing as my life. It's a collective life, and doesn't matter how old you are.
Yeah.
This can be till, up until a
Yeah.
certain age. So there has to be boundaries drawn, negotiations to be had,
Mm-hmm.
communication, points to be discussed. I don't believe in revolutionary transformation of behavior. I think things like this, delicate, fragile situations like this, need to be approached with tact, with emotional intelligence, with patience, and step by step. You don't want to, you also have to have empathy for the previous generation or that culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you think about the Iranian culture can limit authenticity, Bahar, in your opinion?
Yeah. Again, we do have a lot of Taaruf, for example, this saying that, okay, just to pretend that
Mhm.
tension of I'm happy, I'm okay with what you just told me or what you gave me. So I think again, to some extent, it's good to respect and be polite, but that has to be the boundary, I think. And
Yes.
so again, that balance comes into picture. That
Yeah.
have
So
in
that's a really good point. Your point about reactions and responses.
Mhm,
So we're told, expressions like kutabia,
mhm,
kutabia halato. You
mhm,
know, how do we translate that? Kutabia is like be
mhm,
short. Don't be yourself. Don't be your own height. Be shorter than you are. Why?
mhm.
Why should I not speak up? Why should I not communicate about what's hurt me in a respectful
Yes.
and, compassionate way?
Mhm,
I don't mean for there to be conflict or for you to be argumentative.
mhm,
People aren't authentic in our culture when it comes to the, concept of aberu,
mhm,
okay, reputation
mhm.
and looking at the way in which other people judge or don't judge us. So, people say, آبروت میره اگر مثلا اینو بپوشی.
Mhm,
کجا میره؟
mhm.
اینجایی که تمام آبروها میرن کجا هست? Where is this, place where all the آبروها, they live together somewhere?
Exactly.
Somewhere boring. It's not fun
No,
wherever that
very
is.
boring.
It's not, or so like you said, we could be having an argument at home, and the minute the guests arrive, it's hello, how are you? It's all pretend and get on with things. Whereas my English neighbors, for example, if it's happened where I go to their house and I want to have a cup of coffee with them, one of them will say, "Oh, you know what, Samina, it's not a good time because this guy here is giving me a heart attack and I'm having a big fight with him. And,
Mhm,
let me come to your house instead."
mhm.
We may not do that.
No, no, that's so bad in our culture. We can't.
And even to our closest, even to some of our closest friends, we may not. I mean, you know what shocked me as a doctor about her? In our culture, people don't even tell each other if they're sick. So this for me, because I never grew up in Iran, I was shocked the first time I heard somebody say, "My mother has a diagnosis. اما بهش
Oh,
نگفتیم."
yes. Hmm.
We didn't, she doesn't know.
Yeah,
Or if someone dies in the family, like they don't tell family members.
I know.
Where does that come from? Is it just out of protection or?
I don't know. It's not healthy. And I think to some extent, we still have that in our culture. So in Iranian culture, just
Yeah.
and it's is it protection? Is it healthy? Not always, for sure not.
Because the four elements of authenticity are self-awareness,
Hmm.
okay? The first one is self-awareness. The second one is being transparent and vulnerable. When you're authentic, you're transparent. What you see is what you get. There isn't these hidden agendas or layers or parts to who you are. These are people you feel comfortable with, Bahar. These are people you meet at a cocktail party and you sit next to, and you want to tell them, "Gosh, I feel like I've known you for all my life." You
Hmm.
know, they skip the awkward spaces where they're trying to be somebody else or they're trying to be formal. They might just be themselves and share their thoughts with you in the moment. So they're transparent and vulnerable. Authentic people are inclusive as well, which means I can debate something with you till tomorrow
Hmm.
and we can agree to disagree, but we're still best friends.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter. We don't have to have the same opinion, but it doesn't mean I have to demote you or put you down
Hmm.
or, have an all-out war with you because you see things different to me or that you have different ideas. And finally, the last point of authenticity is that you choose an ethical and moral perspective. It's not about it being good just for me. It means let's make decisions based on a win-win outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? I'll give you an example. I was working in a company, it was about 7 years ago, and the CEO of the company called me into their office and said, Dr. Shaheem, we need to lay off about 12 people, and we need to do it next week, and I need you to send the email. I said, email? Email? These people have been working in this company 30 years, some of them, 30 years, 20 years. Yes, we don't have time. That's what needs to be done. It's a very difficult situation right now, position. I didn't say anything then. I said, sure, and I will get back to you. And I went home and I thought about this. I said, how am I going to approach this situation with authenticity and integrity? This is not me. If I do this, I will be doing something that somebody else has asked me to do. But those 12, 13 people will always remember that I was the one without conscience that fired them and said, thank you very, very much. We don't need you anymore, through an email. So I went in, Bahar, the next 2 days later, and I said, with all due respect, I'm ready for certain consequences, whatever that, may happen. If you can ask somebody else to take this step, or I really would ask you and request that we find a different way of approaching this situation. There's a better way to do it. And it's a choice to decide, is there a better way to handle a situation or a scenario, right? And that's why we hire new people in companies, so that they can disagree once in a while, so that they can bring fresh perspective, or else we'd be stuck.
Yeah.
There'd be no progression.
Very, very true.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm doing most of the talking. Bahar, we we want to hear from you as well. Tell me, are you reading the comments? Is that what you?
Comments? Yes. Again, even in the question box, yeah, they're asking some.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to answer any questions if
Is
people
asking
have questions.
how to shift from being a perfectionist. What's the best way to try not to be perfectionist, which in some cases restrict your progress.
Yeah.
How?
Well, when you look at perfectionism, it's very, very important for you to identify what's the root cause of your perfectionism. Remember, psychology is the study of individual behavior, and every individual has different root causes, perhaps. There might be some similarities, but there are lots of differences. That's why taking questions like this, or on the radio or on TV, is not really the right thing to do without understanding the full context of it. But what I will say is the first thing you need to do is, where is it coming from? Is it coming from fear of failure, your perfectionism? Is it coming from fear or lack of resources, that you don't know how to do something, or to what standard that you should deliver it? Is it related to a block that you have, so that you're distracted by other things and you're not able to engage in this? One of the best ways to try and break down this concept or phenomena of perfectionism is to really deeply, genuinely, and objectively look at what you have achieved regularly. Okay? If we're always thinking about what we haven't done, and if we're always thinking about what went wrong, then that creates a sentiment in our minds that we're not good enough, that we can't do anything, as well as we want to do it. So people often have to be reminded, talk about what you've achieved. Look at all your successes.
Mm-hmm.
Look at the last time you had this project, how good the results were. So really attracting their attention, first of all, to their strengths. The second thing that you could do in terms of perfectionism is progress. Just
Mm-hmm.
start. When you find that it's not the right time or the right moment, or I don't want to hand it in, focus on progress rather than perfection. So that means, let me, if I'm writing a book,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say I want to finish the chapter today. I'm going to say, let me just start. Let me sit behind the computer and write 3 pages. And before I know it, I've written 30,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then suddenly the momentum goes. It's very important to break perfectionism with action and progress.
Mm-hmm.
Once you start and you polish as you progress, then ultimately you get to perfectionism. So you're then not paralyzed by it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Beautiful. Well said. Amazing.
you're sure,
You're
you're welcome.
explaining so beautiful everything. Just so clear.
Thank you, Barucho.
I love it. But I think one of the challenges nowadays is, as you mentioned, social media and comparing yourself to all these different things you see or
Mm,
hear in social media all the time.
mm,
So if you get to that maturity to compete with yourself and try to
mm.
progress and get better, that helps a lot. But it's so challenging now in this day, in this world, how to be able to get there. It's
Yeah, it is challenging, and it's challenging for our kids.
yes.
You must be going through that right now, thinking about your kids and social media at the age of 12, right? They're all telling you, Mom, everyone has a phone.
Oh,
Everyone is on Instagram and TikTok.
the scary part is like on TikTok, and now, mommy, this girl, she's just 15 and she has millions of dollars just by doing this and that. So it's just mind blowing. It's crazy. It's just not better get down to that. But it's just every day you see these things.
It's true. It's true. There is, I need to get his name, Jonathan.
I want to ask you about a book, the communication book. What is a recommended good communication book?
You recommend, okay. So Sherry is asking, Sherry, tell me a little bit more about communication book. What are you looking for? Communication is super broad.
Mm-hmm.
Give me a little bit more, because right now I have 103 books in my mind. But if you if we get it a little bit more specific, I can maybe narrow it down. So I want to share with you the book called by Jonathan Haidt, and it's called The Anxious Generation. The Anxious Generation. And this is, I think, anyone who has children um, around the age of 7 or 8 or even younger that are going to be impacted by this, they should read this book. And this book is about a project that he engaged in to look at the rapid decline of adolescents' mental health in the last 10 years. And he calls them the anxious generation because of social media, um, and the percentage of US undergraduates who've been diagnosed with mental illnesses such as anxiety, depression, ADHD, bipolar, anorexia, and these different issues. He also talks about the misinformation around mental health on social media.
Mm-hmm.
So something close to about, I think, 90% of information around ADHD is false
Mm-hmm.
on TikTok, and it's incorrect. You know, because you have amateurs and content makers claiming to understand something as complicated and complex as mental health. There's we don't stay in university and practice and teach and research for decades um, to be kind of replaced by a 21-year-old telling you what ADHD is. It's not about his or her age.
Yes.
It's the fact that they sometimes are misinformed.
There's no,
and then this
not evidence-based. What? Yeah,
it's
that is.
not evidence-based, and then people are then sharing this information with each other, and then now everybody talks in this psycho-babble language. Bahar, you're triggering me, and when you're triggering me, I don't feel like I can communicate very effectively, and I need to establish boundaries between you and me. So it's become this psycho-social media babble, and it has lost its genuine impact and feel for things. So I think Sherry is saying something about resolving conflict. Communication for conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is so important, Sherry John. We're always going to fight. I mean, there's always going to be disagreements. Life is going to happen. Conflict will arise. But how you resolve that conflict is very, very important. Maybe, Bahar, you and I should do another live about conflict resolution.
Yes,
But
I love to.
so I will let me think about it, and please send me a direct message, Sherry Sahmadi, and I shall share with you the name of the book that I think may work.
And would we kindly enough write those questions for me so I can add it to, or you can just add it in the chat caption to, so we can, and then we can come back and maybe talk again about the conflict resolution and also about the questions and responses we receive.
Yes, perfect. Absolutely. My pleasure.
I missed
Thank
you
you very much for reaching out.
a couple of months ago in Toronto. I wish I knew earlier that you're coming. And
Yes.
next time.
Next time for sure. I had such a lovely time in Toronto. Everybody was so kind and generous, and it was a wonderful 2 days. But we will no doubt do it again, and hopefully see you soon in person.
Yes, it was lovely seeing you, and we'll stay in touch, and for sure we will have more talks soon.
For sure. Thank you very much,
Thank Thanks.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Bye.
day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.